Hey guys, welcome to the Hollywood Dreams podcast. This is your host Santi Trix, along with my fellow host David Mulligan. Hey David, how are you?
What's up, man?
I'm doing great, doing great. I'm happy to be finally doing one of these one episode that I really wanted to do for a long time. We got Gerry Gittelson on the phone, or well, online, I should say. um,
We're
hey
going.
Jerry, welcome to the show.
Yeah, is that what you're going to be wearing for the whole show?
It is. I'm going for the
He's got that
like
casual look.
I'm going for the bomb look. I'm going for the life, sex, and death look.
He usually he
And as
usually goes
far as,
topless, so this is a
as
blessing.
far as Warrant is concerned, you know what I mean? Warrant is like sort of the band that also made Gerry Gittelson who he is, but only like a tiny zit on the ass of the success compared to Warrant. But I do take some credit, and I'm the one who sort of originally made them, publicized them to some big places and got some gold records and stuff. And we
Awesome.
were both around the same time. We were around the same age. You know what I mean? We were coming up at the same time.
Nice. Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah. That's
It's good that
awesome,
they
man.
had people like you backing them because we might have never heard them. You know?
Almost everybody
Yeah.
loved Warren. Like they would have made it with or without me, or before or after too. I mean, they were just the guy there. I mean, it was so obvious. They were so talented, and their songs were great. They were a can't miss band.
Oh yeah, and you see that. You can see that. You go back and you watch that video. I think it was from '87. They played Gazaris. You can check that video online, man. That video right there, you could just tell they were just screaming for success. It was
Yeah,
pretty awesome.
destined for it. Definitely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That
definitely.
Kazari's night, I remember that night because I was there, and we were drinking so much after the show. And I'm not that big of a drinker. I like to do a little bit, but we were drinking so much that I even had an unfortunate accident in the car because Sunset is really windy, like 2 a.m. in the morning. So one little memory I have that I overdid it that night with Warrant.
That's awesome.
Well,
Yeah.
we're glad you're here to
I
talk
bet.
about it.
I bet you got a lot of stories like that from back in the day,
There
right?
was no cell phones back then, you know what I mean? So I went to go find a phone, and when I came back, they were already towing the car away like it was a hit and run. So I'm like, I'll just wait till tomorrow, you know what I mean? But I didn't mean to, I was just gonna call someone or something. I remember that.
We,
Uh-oh.
we, we kind of listen. We kind of listen to you, Jerry. You there?
I'm right here.
Oh, he's
Oh,
back.
okay. Okay, you're back. You're back. Awesome. So, Jerry,
Got
let's
better
kick it off.
looking.
Let's kick it off with a question. So, how would you describe the Sunset Strip scene in the late '80s?
Much different than it is today, that's for sure. But the weird thing about it is, as much fun and as much magic that was happening at the Sunset Strip, there was never any thoughts that it could end at any time. You know what I mean? And everyone talks about how it had ended abruptly in 1991 with grunge and stuff. But in '87, you never thought it was going to end. Or in '88, you never thought it was going to end. In '89 and '99, you never thought it was going to end. We never even contemplated that. You know what I mean? But
Right.
it was you could just start your night, you know what I mean, at the Sunset Strip, and you knew you were going to have an incredible night. Even on Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays, something was going to be going on.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah,
Always something happening at any given moment.
it's definitely a scene
you
that
know
is missed, man.
and because there were so many bands, you know what I mean, you had to be good, so it
Right.
paid off perfectly for the consumers, you know what I mean, because when
Mhm.
you go to the whiskey, there wouldn't be 6 shitty bands and one okay band, you know what I mean, that all paid to play. There'd be 4 or 5, and they'd all be kick-ass fucking bands on the way up, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Totally. Totally. So, how did you got involved in all of that? When?
I think I actually met a guy at a wedding, and who was doing for LA Reader, at that time. And I sort of started with Music Connection and LA Reader, but Rock City News is where I first found my home and knew that this is what I wanted to do for the rest of my life. There's not many of them left from that era that have continuously been a rock journalist every single week of every single year from '87 until now.
Cool.
Yeah, and
Well,
so
it's
you gotta keep it going, man. Keep it alive.
I
yeah.
was so young in like 1985 or 1986. I'm like 20 years old, 21 years old, hanging out with. They used to have these big street festivals. It was called the Street Fest in Los Angeles, where like they'd have like 20 stages, and all these bands would play for free, and they'd sell like little, you know, have vendors and all that stuff. But so they're all like the cool bands like Poison and Guns N' Roses. And Rock City News sent me over there as like the third assignment, and I'm hanging out with Steven Adler on like the side of the stage, and like girls are like, now I want to be as PC as possible because it is 2023 right now, but we're talking about a long time ago and things were much different. You know, and girls are like pulling their tops off, and Steven Adler's like signing their boobies, and I'm like, wow, this is like, I'd been a sports writer, and that's how I first had become a journalist. And I'm like, sports writing is okay, but the parties are much different in rock and roll than they were in sports. All there is a buffet. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nothing beats a rock and roll party.
For sure, for sure.
So, you know what? Steven Adler wasn't really famous then. You know what I mean? When they were, this is before Appetite came out. He was kind of famous in Los Angeles, and he had
Right.
played like, I think he had like played like Long Beach Arena, opening up for like two other bands. They were kind of on the way, you know what I mean? And people kind of knew who they were, but you know, he was not really famous yet either.
Yeah, yeah. You know, it's pretty cool for me. I go and I look at being from Cleveland, Ohio.
Yes.
I didn't realize just how many musicians from Cleveland ended up in LA and ended up in a lot of bands. You know,
Haven.
with
New
Janie and
Haven was
Steven.
from Cleveland. Todd Lane, the drummer from New Haven, was from
Yeah, oh yeah,
Cleveland.
Todd Lane's been here. I did an interview with Todd Lane here for the movie I'm doing, and Todd
Yeah.
Lane's sitting in my apartment. We just actually I just talked to him today.
Were you
Yeah.
hanging out with Warrant in Cleveland? Are you the same age? Were you hanging? Did you know Warrant in Cleveland?
I did not. I met Janie. Actually, I met all the guys quite a few times, but I remember meeting Janie in 93, 94.
Mm.
They played a club here called Flashes. It was for the Dog Eat Dog tour. And I was just amazed that here's Warrant, and Dog Eat Dog to me is their best album to me. That's hands down. And for
I
them
got
to be
you.
playing a small club for an album that I don't know what you want. That album to me was just beyond anything I've ever heard at that time. And I
Oh
just
my
couldn't believe
goodness.
that here's a band that has one of the biggest uh, attendance records at our one of our biggest venues here called Blossom. Um, and I probably because of Janie's connection to Akron and the whole area over here. But I
Well, they
couldn't
did an
believe that.
arena tour before Doggy Dog. They did an arena tour playing for
Yeah,
15,000 people as
Yeah.
headliners.
yeah, they had that pay per
Wasn't
view
that
event.
long before?
Yeah, they had one of the biggest pay per view events ever.
Yeah.
When they did the Thursday night concert series, and it just blew my mind. And but I got connected with people that you might know, like Billy Morris, who's playing with
I
Stevie
love
now and
them, dude.
stuff.
Cleveland, Ohio.
Yeah, yeah,
Now, are you
yeah,
a are you a foodie too, or just rock and roll? Or are you a foodie also?
no, I'm I love my rock and roll.
All right, because he's big on like those food trucks and stuff. Him and
Yeah,
Todd.
no, I don't do. I mean, I'll eat their food truck because
Yeah, that's
you
what I'm
know,
talking about. Yeah.
yeah, I'll
Yeah.
eat their
Yeah.
food truck. I don't do a lot of food trucks though. I don't. It's not. We have a couple places like around where the food trucks will be, and I just go if smoking's there, I'll go and hang out with Billy and Todd, and it's all good.
I'm with you,
And
man.
and those guys can cook. They can cook. I'll give it
Now,
that.
when do you guys ever hang out on the Sunset Strip? Am I the only Los Angeles guy?
You're the only one.
I was born a little too late for that, sadly.
Yeah. There's a good
Yeah,
Yeah.
show Saturday, you know, the Crew Fest. Blacklist Union makes their grand return to
Yeah.
Los Angeles. Tony West.
it's
You
definitely
either
Yeah.
on
love
my.
him or you hate him. I think he's great. You know what I mean? But you either love the guy or you hate him. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we had a lot of guys well, for example, we had Brit from Blackbird Jungle on the show a few months ago, and before they had their reunion show that they do every year, right? And
Yeah.
that's a fantastic show that I wish I was able to go, but I'm a bit far away. But
Well,
We
we've
review it
had
every year in Metal Sludge. We've reviewed that like 12 years in a row or more, in Metal
yeah,
Sludge.
doesn't Stonebreed play a lot of those shows
Stonebridge
out there
plays a
with
lot of
Carlos?
shows but that particular show is for all the old bands. You know what I mean?
okay.
Before Stonebridge was even
Yeah,
around,
yeah.
that's like a special show for all the old bands.
So
Although
who's
Or,
Stonebridge kind of,
all the experienced bands.
yeah.
yeah, just like it's like the bands that like they only play once a year, like Swinging Thing, Blackboard Jungle,
Right.
Fizzy, or Stars from Mars. I mean, the kind of bands that only play once a year.
Stars from
Yeah.
Mars was a great
Stonebridge
band.
plays too many shows. I don't know
Yes,
how he does it,
from
dude,
Swing and
touring
Thing,
and stuff.
we had Chris on the show in the past from Swing and
Yeah.
Thing. That's a band that I always thought was gonna make it big. It's
Mhm.
definitely they deserved it. They definitely deserved it. They were on par with the Warrants of the era, and
Did you know there's a connection? There's a connection between Warrant and Swinging Thing. Did you know that?
which
Eric
one?
Turner produced Swinging Thing's like second or
Okay.
third demo and was sort of, I mean, it was just sort of how that music was sort of on the way out when, when Warrant was trying to bring them up, you know what I mean? But
Mhm.
Yeah.
had it happened earlier, it would have been much different. But he actually produced it. And I think that they also shared the same manager of Tom Hewlett Management. Um, so Eric Turner's no dummy. In other words, he saw it too. I totally agree with you.
Hmm.
Swinging Thing could and should and would have sold 1 million records or more.
Yeah.
All they had to do was
Yeah.
put those five guys and those songs in front of a lot of people, and it would be over. You know what I mean? I could see 50,000 people in like Arizona just going crazy for that band. You know what I mean? Right then, at that time.
I mean, songs like "I Want Your Body," "Avenue Boys," those are the cherry pies
Hits,
of
dude. Yeah,
that
they had
band.
about
Yeah,
5 or 6 hits. Yeah.
yeah, definitely. Well, and I also think the same about the Big Bang Babies, which, as you
Yes,
mentioned,
yes,
you
yes.
you
That
had a
was sort of my
huge.
invention. I love Big Bang Babies.
Yeah,
Um, they had just really just a lot of really, really good songs that should have been pure, simple radio hits, the kind of band that sells 1 million records. That is
yeah,
exactly what Big Bang Babies was. The last ones through the gate were like Nelson and Danger Danger and Slaughter. Those were the last bands of that kind that went through the gate. But that next batch that I was really super into, that I can also include Tricks in
hmm
that group
Tricks
of
are
bands that had
awesome.
superb hit songs. You know what I mean? New Haven had a couple of um doubtless hits. You know what I mean? There's just no question about it. That Rockin'
Yeah.
Chair and Part of Me were going to be FM radio hits if it was done right.
yeah.
Wild
Oh,
Side,
definitely.
Young Guns, those guys had
Yeah. Young
hits.
Gun. Yeah.
That album's incredible. Am I right?
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
lost some really, really good bands that would be in classic rock rotation. You know what I mean? Had it gone on until 93 or so.
Yeah. There
Yeah.
were there were a lot of good bands that came late and just sadly just didn't get the
Yeah,
chance.
yeah, yeah. You got sort of a taste, you saw, oh God, this band's got some songs. And a lot of them looked really cool too. I mean, that's why
Mhm.
that was part of Swinging Things appeal is they looked so cool too. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
And Tricks just looked so cool. It's like, how could they not be great? Look at how cool they look. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Those guys were fantastic, man. So good.
Oh yeah. No,
Like New
definitely.
Haven looked really cool too. You know what I mean? Everybody was
Yeah.
really
Everybody
happy
but
with the
Todd
band,
Lane.
you know?
Todd Lane brought that band down. I think. I think.
Yeah, except for Todd Lane. That's why they put him behind the drums. He wanted to be the singer. You know what I mean? The other guy had blonde hair, so they made him the singer.
T Lane, I hope you hear this, buddy.
So what do you think happened with the Big Bang Babies? Was it a problem with not getting like label interest or?
We had actually, I was their manager in the beginning, but not at the very end. I was not, I was just sort of their buddies, you know what I mean? But
Yeah.
I brought them to Warner Brothers, you know what I mean? And you know, Rob Cavallo at Warner Brothers and Barry Squire at Warner Brothers and Elektra. I mean, we were sitting across from them, you know what I mean? They looked at the pictures, they saw the band, they met the guys, they heard the songs, you know what I mean? So they were at the plate, you know what I mean, on the pitch, waiting to hit the ball out of the park, you know what I mean? It's just
Yeah,
nobody
yeah.
pulled the trigger, I guess would be the term, you know what I mean?
Right.
Nobody signed them, is what happened. But had they signed them right away, I mean, it was pretty apparent after their first 5 or 6 shows that this was a really good band that had really good songs, like 7 or 8 awesome songs in a row, and they're only playing 40 minutes, so that's most of it, right?
Right.
And they looked really cool too. I mean, they looked just amazing because they were young and they looked cool and they had good clothes and stuff. You know what I mean? They knew what they were doing. That was a band that should have, you know, been super successful. But you're getting a taste of it. I mean, Kerry Kelly was sort of the brainchild behind the whole band. He has become extraordinarily successful, you know, with
Yeah.
a series of huge gigs, including Night Ranger now. You know what I mean?
I
Yeah.
actually have
And
a
Philip,
Gerry Kelly story that just happened today.
what
Today.
happened with Kerry Kelly? What happened?
Okay, so I get a message on my messenger, like a wave, you know, like one of those wave things
Yeah.
from Kerry Kelly. And I'm like, okay, that seems kind of weird. And so I did a thing back with like the devil horns and a heart, you know. So then he asked me, comes back, and I said thanks for the ad or something, and he comes back and he says, "Hey man, I really want to be on your show or whatever." He's like, "Can you make that happen?" And it was kind of broken English, so I was kind of wary about it. But I said, "Sure, I absolutely love to have you on the show." I mean, why wouldn't we? You know,
In
Kerry
fact,
Kelly.
let's cut Gittelson and put Kerry Kelly on.
Well, you might be able to
Thankfully,
make a
he
real
was
thing happen
busy.
because
I
this
almost
guy
got
ended up being
clipped
a
today.
scam. Well, I luckily I double checked everything. He sent me an email, and I should throw the email out there now so people can just blow this guy up. He sent me this email. It was night management, and I'm like, that's fucking wrong. That ain't right. So I was like, I sent
Oh,
him a
I'll give
message
you
back, and I
I got
said,
his
hey,
cell phone number. Well, I'll just
yeah, let him know because I
I'll
recorded
broadcast the cell
thing.
phone number.
But I sent a message back. I was like, look, I was like, we could do it. We'll get you on the show for $5,000. We can only pay you $5,000. That's our budget. We can't do any higher than that. But then never got a response. So I'm guessing they figured I was onto them. So then I double checked everything through Night Rangers pages and everything. And sure enough, it's a scam. This guy's going
Oh,
around
so he
trying
didn't
to get
call
people
you
in
to
on
it.
it. Yeah. So if you want to pass that along to Kerry and let him know there's some bullshit going
So when
on.
you guys are paying for interviews, because you never mentioned anything like this to me at all.
Yeah, but we can only 5,000 is the limit. We can't go any higher.
No, we
You know how
charge.
much money
You
Kerry
said
Kelly
that
has.
wrong. We
Kerry
charge
Kelly,
$5,000.
take away whatever he makes from Night Ranger. The guy's got 2 successful restaurants with gambling. He's got like 50
Yeah.
employees. That
Yeah.
guy's got millions of dollars there. You know
Oh,
what I
yeah.
mean?
Oh yeah,
That guy doesn't even roll out of bed
definitely
for
pay us to
5,000.
do Hollywood Dreams.
Yeah.
No,
But you
yeah,
know what?
and
On a serious note, though, if you let him know that there's some crap going on, I'm sure he already knows. But
yeah,
you know,
yeah.
I wasn't going to fall for it. But we would absolutely love to have Kerry on
You know
the
what?
show.
You know what? He would love that. He has arrived officially now. They've
Yes,
stalking.
So
You know what I
maybe
mean? It used to just be Jack Blades. It used to just be the bands like Slash that he played for. It used to be,
Yep.
you know, all those kinds of guys like Vince Neil.
Alice Cooper and
Now it's Kerry Kelly. Now
he's
he
the
has his
man.
own stalker fans. You know what I mean? What's the
Yep.
date today? You said it was today, right?
Just this morning, I swear
July
to God, man.
25th,
Yep, it was today.
2023. Kerry
The day
Kelly has
Kerry
arrived.
Kelly became.
I'm going to link him on this too. All right.
Yeah, let him know. Let
I'll
him
tell
know.
him to do it
And
the
tell
show.
him we'd love to have him on the show. We would
He'll
love
do
to
it
have
for
him.
free, dude. He's easy to work with. Yes.
Yeah,
But he doesn't do a lot of them That's why in the beginning I'm like, Carrie Kelly texted this guy, really? You know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah, I knew.
And he
No,
said,
I knew
thanks
right
for the
away.
ad. So
And
Carrie
besides,
barely even
if Gerry
knows it.
Kelly wants to text me, I'm sure he's not going to do it with a heart emoji or a hand waving. You know.
Yeah, that's right. Well, and back to what we're talking about. I always thought that they were going to like. I wish they would just re-release like some of the earlier stuff. I know they put
I've
out
asked him
some.
100 times. I've asked him like
Yeah.
100 times to do it. You think this is the first time anyone's asked about
No,
that? You
no,
know.
I
Although,
know it's not.
have
Yeah.
you ever heard Nicolette Night, the glam CD of Nicolette Night in 2006?
I
It's
don't think I have.
All Big Bang Baby songs. Carrie produced it and played
Oh, really?
guitar and
Wow.
stuff. And Keith
Okay.
Allen, the drummer, played drums on some of the tracks too. They do like all Big Bang Baby songs. She's really good, you know.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, I'll check it
It's
out. I'll check it out.
Nicolette
Yeah, I'll
Night.
check that out.
I'll
And
check
you
it out.
said that was Night Management, right?
Oh yeah, night management.
This is real.
You know
This
what?
one's real.
Dude,
Nicolette Night's
I'll
actually
send you
real.
all the fucking. I'll send you all the links.
Knight. But Carrie
Okay.
produced that in 2006. I think it had Fast, Free, and Dangerously, Youth of Today, Sing for Me, um, the big the big ballad on Eight Arms. I forgot what it was called. Hear You Say. You know what I
Here you
mean? All their
say.
best songs. You know what I mean? And plus, it
Cool.
had like Joan Jett and Kim Wilde. I mean, she didn't have that many songs. She had like 6 or 7 songs, but so did Big Bang, and they were pretty good on that Bing CD. You know. Carrie produced it. I was there also. I was like the co-producer.
Okay,
I
and
put my
it
name
was
first. If
Nicolette.
you look it up, dude, and you look for that CD, it says produced by Gerry Gittelson and Carrie Kelly, even though he
Okay,
did
nice.
everything. But it
That's
was
pretty
my
awesome.
idea,
They got
so I
producers
got, you
for
know
it.
what I mean? I'm the one who came up with the idea and brought her into his house, so I'm the producer. Period.
Nice.
Cool,
Yeah,
cool, cool. So you also produced shows back in the day, right?
yeah, the G Spot jams.
Nice.
I had so many promoters rip me off, dude, for the first few
Yeah.
months. Every promoter that I've worked with, you know what I mean? Full House ripped me off. Exposure 54 ripped me off. Um, one of them were honest, but finally I'm like, fuck this. You know what I mean? I was so young, you know what I mean? I'm like, then I just started doing the shows myself. And like there'd be like an extra $1,000 or $1,500 that I'd make. And I'm like, wait a second. How come I was only making $200 last time and it's the same amount of people? You know what I mean? So, you know what I mean? Everything that they say about the music industry, especially back then, is true. And not just at the highest levels, but also at the medium level and at the level that I was at, which was the local level. All the same culture, exactly the same culture. You know,
Right.
they all got the girls, you know what I mean, with the boobies, you know what I mean, back then. And they had those at the highest level, they had them at the medium level, they had them at the low level. They had the scumdog promoters and record owners, I guess, at the highest level. You know what I mean? By the time they were at my level, I guess they're promoters or the editors, all fucking scammers. You know what I mean? Every fucking one of them, just about. Can we cuss on the show or no?
Oh, you
It's
can
too late
say
now.
whatever the fuck you want. Yeah.
And you know what? But those times flew by just so fast. Like I was saying before, that we never thought it would end. You know what I mean? That was
Yeah.
really, I don't have a
Mhm.
single regret. I may say everyone ripped me off or whatever, but I don't have a single regret, even though I helped everyone else figure out how to make millions of dollars and I never quite cashed in myself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
But I had my share of fun tokens, and I had my share of fun, period.
Yeah,
And
you know what, man? You were living it. You were right in the middle of it.
and I'm not that different right now. You know what I mean? I'm still writing for Metal Sludge and doing it right now and sort of in the same fanzine style that I often did, even though I was a real journalist with the LA Daily News for like 20 years. So
Oh,
I wasn't always a fanzine type guy, but I was like the columnist at Rock City News. Then I founded Hollywood Rocks, and I was the editor of like Factor X, which was like a little bit like those same magazines. I was sort of hanging on to the scene in like 94, 95, you know what I mean?
mhm.
And then it started, I started focusing back on sports and doing regular stuff for the Daily News, but eventually Rock sort of pulled me back. So I was reviewing a lot of shows for the Daily News. And then it actually got bigger because I got to, talk to Ringo Starr and do Aerosmith and all those gigantic bands. You know what I mean? So it got me a chance to be more well-rounded this way that a lot of local fanzine level type people never get to that level or even want to. You know what I mean? They didn't even think about it. You know what I mean? Now, I love focusing back on local bands now because I'm sort of an expert on what it takes to fuck everything up and not succeed. That I got more experience with than anybody. The local level, the bands that didn't make it. You know what I mean? That I've seen it all. You know what I mean? I'm a perfect person for advice about that. Once it gets really big, I couldn't fucking manage Green Day. I wouldn't even know what to do right now. You know what I mean? But I know how to make bands big, or I did. I don't even know now. It's all about like the net or social media or something. You know what I mean? But I figured out the formula back then. Steve Summers from Pretty Boy Floyd, one of my best friends, for a really long time. Like I was with them at the very, very, very beginning. He said there's like this basic formula that you had to have, you know what I mean, to make it. One, you had to look cool. So that just ruled out anyone who didn't look cool. It was hard to get signed in 88, 89, 90, 91, which was that reign, you know what I mean? The Olympic reign. So he said you had to look cool, you know what I mean? And you had to have good songs, you know what I mean? You couldn't make it if no matter how good you were at your instruments and how cool you looked, you had to have good songs, you know what I mean? And the third and last thing, you didn't need nothing else, was you had to kick ass live. So you couldn't just be cool. Most people cool looking and are really good musicians who should kick ass live, but that was part of it because you had to have a good live show because that's how you got all your popularity, right? And you know what I mean?
Yeah,
you couldn't have any popularity without playing shows. So that had to be at least part of the equation, right?
Yeah, nobody's going to want to come see a shitty band.
So that formula is the exact formula that I always loved. You know what I mean? And that's why all the bands that I liked back then followed that exact formula. Start with Big Bang Babies, right? Cool looking, right? Good songs, number two. Great live show. They hit the formula exactly. You know what I mean?
Did they ever record a video?
Did they? Yeah, they have some videos out there. Yeah, they have their home video that's available. I think if you like click around it on YouTube, you could probably find it.
Oh yeah,
very popular. Yeah.
Nice.
Did you guys like Queenie Blast Pop? I started Queenie Blast Pop too.
I love Queenie Blast Pop.
Wow.
I love the song
Forever and Something You Don't Know. They had a lot of songs. They had hits and they looked cool and they were great live also. Do you know that the guy who discovered Tiffany, and not just discovered, was the whole of Tiffany, this guy named George Tobin, produced it, put it out, managed it. He was Tiffany, I Think You're Alone Now, that gigantic hit single, you know what I mean? That guy's name was George Tobin, who owned a studio in North Hollywood, and that's how he was able to afford to make these things happen. Drove a fancy car, and he was kind of a cool guy, even though he's an older guy, right?
Right.
He, after Tiffany broke gigantically in like 1991, right in that area, the next project he wanted to do was Queenie Blast Pop. And he saw like their second show or his third show ever at the Troubadour, right? And they kicked ass too. They weren't even headliners yet. It was like they only played like at 10 p.m. or something, right? It was only like their second or third show.
Wow.
And he's like, I was technically their manager, you know what I mean? But of course, George Tobin would come in, you know what I mean? And so we go to George Tobin's office. He's got like a fucking Mercedes 600 SEL and stuff, you know what I mean? And we have a meeting with him. And he says, I don't want you to change anything about your image. You know what I mean? I think it's perfect and the songs are perfect. And, he made some deal, which was like a little bit, bigger than, but he was taking all the risk. He was going to get like 25% of everything. It was reasonable. You know what I mean? But he was going to produce everything. So Queenie was going to have an incredible CD, unsigned, and then he was going to shop the record. And I think he got like some producer points too. You know what I mean? So that was the deal he was going to do. Great deal. And he even had a spot for me. He never said Gittelson wasn't involved. I was just sort of hanging out with him, and I was sort of their day-to-day guy, right?
Yeah.
So they show up then for like the first day of like recording, and like they had like this wild singer. I don't want to say his name or anything right now, you know what I mean? But they had this wild singer who like brought a friend, or he was like hungover, and they weren't ready emotional. They didn't have the emotional maturity and the professionalism and the they fucked it up, you know what I mean? But it was sad because I think that it could have come, something might have happened. They never had a break like that again. You know what I mean? They never had that big
Right.
of a break again. It's like Metal Blade was sort of a successful label, more like a metal label with bands like Bitch and Armored Saint and Pandemonium, all those kind of bands.
Yeah.
They wanted to sign Big Bang Babies when I was in the early stages. And Carrie and Kit didn't want to do Metal Blade. They wanted to do CBS or Warner Brothers or Capitol. You know what I mean?
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
But I'm like, if the songs are good, you know, and eventually all that, it was like Enigma. You know what I mean? They got absorbed by Capitol. Something big will happen, or you'll get it on the next record.
Hey,
But
it happened. It happened to the Goo Goo Dolls who were on Metal Blade. Did it not?
yeah, you weren't they like one of their first? There's
First
yeah,
two albums, I think, were on Metal Blade, and then
yeah,
Tom
but the
Hanks
Goo Goo
movie
Dolls
later, and
managed.
boom.
The Goo Goo Dolls managed to be okay. I'd rather, you know what I mean? All the Big Bang Babies got to do is say Goo Goo Gaga. The Goo Goo Dolls got to sell millions of records.
That's good.
Hey,
Yeah, those
I'd
songs.
rather listen to Big Bang Babies, though, to be honest.
Oh, totally, totally. Yeah.
And I don't hate the Goo
Sold
Goo
some of
Dolls.
those
I'm cool with
songs.
them, but
They should have sold some of those songs to Firehouse or Nelson or something for like $100,000. You know what I mean?
Well, and
well,
I like what kids doing nowadays. But
It's
I
good,
just wish,
isn't it good?
yeah, it's
Yeah,
good stuff. It's good stuff. I just
and
wish he.
He's rising up the ranks. Like he used to be like at the very bottom of the bill. Now he's in the middle. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know the way his drive is. He's going to go up. He's going to become more popular.
mhm.
I hope he does. Yeah, he deserves it. He's a great singer and a songwriter as well. Yeah.
He was my bestie. You know, Kerry Kelly he was like different. You know what I mean? He was like the artistic brain.
Right.
You know what I mean? He'd like go home at 9 p.m. and start writing, and be up at like 8 a.m. working out, writing songs and stuff. Kit was like the face of the band as far as the social scene and stuff. You know what I mean? So I hung
Mm-hmm.
out a lot with Kit more than Carrie, and that guy was the best. I don't care how fucking many records you've sold, and I'm including fucking Led Zeppelin, dude. That guy was fucking the best at having fun of almost anyone I've ever seen. Whether you're whether you're signed like Warrant and Poison and Motley Crue, well, Motley Crue might have had more fun. But that,
Maybe.
and so did Poison, but he was right at there. You know, that guy, Kit Ashley, was like fucking magic, dude, when he go out at night. You know, the way, like, you guys know the show Happy Days? When Fonzie would
Yeah.
snap his fingers and the Polanski
Yeah.
triplets would roll into his arms. That's the closest that anyone came in real life, was the way Kid Ashley was at the Rainbow.
That's awesome. So
Wow.
yeah, I mean all those I loved all those like early 90s bands, like you said, Queen of Blast Pop, Big and Babies, Heartthrob Mob, that's also a band that
Mhm.
I love. Stars from Mars, those are great bands, and maybe they were too late to the show. I don't know, but they deserved a lot more.
You know what? When you think back on it, you know what I mean, and you really have perspective. If everyone's going to be broke by now anyway, even if you'd made some money, like bands like Bang Tango or something, you know what I mean?
Mm.
And Bullet Boys, like those kind of bands are at the bottom of still being able to go do out of town gigs. I think some of these bands like Swingin' Thing and Big Bang Babies technically had more fun than a lot of the bands that were signed. So if you never
Yeah.
if you didn't make a career out of it anyway, you know what I mean, and you're still just a weekend hobby guy anyway, you know what I mean? You might
Yeah.
as well judge on how good you were and how much fun you had. I think
Oh,
Big Bang, Swinging Thing, and Bite the Bullet, and all those bands had way more fun than a lot of these bands that put out one record and did one MTV video and faded away. You know?
Yeah.
yeah. and now they hate them. They hate each other.
Yeah, there's a lot. There's definitely a lot of that going on inside
Yeah.
this genre of music. There's a lot of that. There's always you never see like I never see like you always see like two LA Guns or there's two Great Whites or there's two whatever,
At
but you
least
never
two,
see.
sometimes three in the case of Rat and LA Gun, but
Yes,
sometimes
yeah,
three.
exactly. I mean, it's crazy how that. I mean, I get people kind of fall apart after a while, but it just seems to be very heavy in for lack of a better
You know,
term, hair metal
that always
genre.
rubs me the wrong way. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
I think I remember Faster Pussycat was like one of the first bands that ever did that, where there was sort of two versions, you know what I mean, of the same band, you know what I mean? And it was
Yeah,
weird.
yeah. It's
And
just
now they're just fighting for scraps, you know what I mean? Like
yeah.
there's a
And I
good
understand you want to survive or you want to whatever. I mean, but I mean, like Steve Riley. Why isn't he just him and Kelly Nichols just call their LA Guns a different? Just call it something different. You know. I mean,
oh, there's about
you can still
there's
say
in the
Steve
case
Riley
of
and Kelly
Steve
Nichols
Riley,
about the Guns.
in the case of Steve Riley, there's about three different reasons, but we really don't need to get into the exact
Yeah,
reason.
man.
But in his case, there are reasons,
Mm.
Yeah.
which is in a fancy way of saying that even when you're a journalist, you're only sort of as good as your last gig or the last story that you wrote. You know what I mean? I've had a wonderful relationship with LA Guns for many years. All of a sudden, they got bashed a little bit by Ricky Rackman, not Ricky Rocket,
Yeah, Ricky
Ricky
Rackman.
Rackman, in Metal Sludge, which I'm Metal Sludge, Stevie's Metal Sludge, but I wrote this particular story. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And all of a sudden, I'm like got the cold shoulder, and I don't get a quote. You know what I mean? It was
Uh,
like, it's rubs
yeah.
that but I understand it because it's just the way things are. You know what I mean? But all of a sudden now he's not my best friend anymore. You know what I mean? Because something bad happens. But I'm sure the next time I actually see him will be cool. You know what I mean? It's sort of a recovery period that has to happen. You see it sort of on Facebook where you like make enemies with someone and then like 2 months later you're buddies again. You know what I mean? Even though you told them to fuck off, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it happens. I mean, it is happening to Motley Crue right now, I
Yeah.
guess.
But you do got
That's
to kind of be careful because with age comes a little more grumpiness, so it might extend it a little longer.
I haven't seen any evidence that he doesn't play the bass on stage.
I
If
know.
all the accusation is about background vocals, who gives a shit? They've been doing that since the 80s.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, no,
Yeah, I
I
don't
Yeah.
see
don't
any
care.
evidence
I
he's
have
not
no
playing
doubt in my
bass.
mind that Nikki Six can pick up a bass guitar and play. I'm sorry, he's
I
fine.
don't know the difference between a good bass player and a bad. I know a good singer when I see one, and I
Hmm.
kind of know if a guy's a good guitar player just after all these years of listening to great records. But the bass and the drums, I mean, whatever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I can't tell the difference. I'm just just like everyone else. It's just been around a long time, but I can't really tell it. I mean, if they want to do recording of the bass, what? Then they all got to start the song at the same time. Like, how does that work? You know what I mean? Doesn't
Right.
Yeah.
make any
Yeah.
sense.
No, no,
Or they're
it's
doing
just
a click. I mean, technically, maybe there's a click track to the drummer, and they like put the bass on that click track that goes through the amp. I mean, who cares? You know what I mean? They got 20,000 fucking people going nuts. Who gives a shit, right?
They could still pack the arenas.
And you can kind of sing still. You know what I mean? They kind of look cool still. You got to respect the band just because that's been around that long. I don't
yeah.
like. I'll never say anything bad about Motley Crue. That band meant a lot to me, and a lot. That band had special songs. You know what I mean? That had special meanings to a lot of people. You
Yep.
know what I mean? I can picture where I was when I was listening to all those. Well, you were probably in the womb still. You know what I mean? But
Well,
I can picture where I was in life. You know what I mean? With Motley Crue, growing up with Motley Crue. You know what I mean?
yeah, and they also they inspired a lot of the bands that we liked. I mean, I think it's the same case with Kiss, right? A lot of people like to talk shit about Kiss, but in the end, whenever they people list out like their most influential albums of they always mention at least Kiss Alive or some other album like that, right?
Obviously, Kiss
Yeah,
is a big influence on Motley Crue. Just look at
yeah.
them, you know what I mean? They look
Yeah.
sort of even the same, and they have that same mentality about their hunger for women and all that sort of
Hmm.
same themes. You know what I mean? I think Motley Crue is better though, even though their body of work and like how many total people you could argue the other side. You know that more people have respected Kiss for a longer period of time continuously, but I think. Well, first of all, at their best, Motley fucking blew Kiss away. You know what I mean? Motley at their best blew almost anyone away, and Vince Neil sang his butt off for 10
Molly
years or so.
Molly Crew at their best was the Dr. Feelgood tour, or even prior to that, with that when they did the
You're right.
Moscow Music Peace Festival.
And girls, they were the one that they were sober, they were awesome. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Yeah.
those few years right there is where they really like. I
Theater
wasn't
of
a fan of
Pain,
Theater of Pain at all.
but you can
But
reboot the old videos of Vince Neil singing Theater of Pain in arenas, and
mhm.
he nails it, dude.
Yeah, he sounds just
And
like the
that is
record.
not an
Yeah.
easy song to sing. That is
Mhm.
not an easy song to sing. Well, none of his songs are, you know what I mean? Because they're so
Yeah.
high. But that's a
Yeah.
long song with a lot of different words and all these changes and stuff, you know what
Yeah.
I mean?
And you want to
And
hear
Yeah, he's
you want to
tough.
hear good Vince Neil? That first solo record he did, the vocals on
yeah,
that solo record are phenomenal.
I
And I
think
think they're better than anything he's done with Motley Crue
you
on that
ever
first solo record.
did you ever
Uh,
hear the story of the time Rob Crane beat up Vince Neil? It was
No.
during that tour of the first record or in that era. I think Rob Crane was actually in the band for a little while.
Yeah, he was. I
And
think he played on that first album, that solo record.
and really good guys in that band. It was like Brent Woods, I think, from Young Guns, Wild Side, and the drummer was the guy from Enough's Enough, who was really good.
Yeah, Vicky
And
Fox.
Big Fox. Yeah.
but at that point, I don't think anyone had actually punched out a big rock star that I'd ever heard. I mean, Axl Rose,
Well, there
always
was.
talked about getting in fights, but every time it was a victim, it was like, and a girlfriend or something. You know what I mean? He never
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
actually squared up on anyone.
Well, then
But
I think
Bobby
Vince Neil and
Crane,
Izzy Stradlin came to blows. I think at one
but
point.
they never actually oh, did they? Yeah, there was
I
like a
think they
sucker
did.
punch
And
or something. Yeah,
yeah,
you're right. It was the
yeah,
Axel
backstage,
versus Vince Neil showdown that they advertised for a year that never happened.
which
That
would have
one
been
never
a
happened.
great pay-per-view event.
Yeah. But Rob Crane apparently is a really athletic, good fighter because he's not that big a guy. He's sort of an average sized guy. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
he had gotten in like a fight when he was on the road with Poison, where he like cleaned house when he was still a teenager on all these security guards, in like Texas or something with Poison. So he had a little bit of a rep, but there was some disagreement where I believe he punched Vince Neil so hard that he like knocked him down to the floor and fucked him up.
Oh wow.
Not
Wow.
that many people knew about this. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
it's the first I've ever heard of it.
Yeah. And
I didn't know
the
that Robbie. I couldn't picture Robbie Crane being a scrapper like that because he's always kind of mellow and kind of a cool, just laid back kind of
fuck with
dude.
that guy. Don't fuck with him. Yeah. And you know what? The weirdest part of the story is I could be wrong. That could have been the end of their relationship ever. But I think that might not have even been the end, and that he was forgiven and continued to work with Vince Neil. It was towards the end, but I don't think that was the last thing they ever did together was the punch to the floor. You know what I mean?
No, they probably shook that off after just like whatever. Now
Yeah.
we still might get that Axel Vince thing because Nikki's talking about doing a tour with Guns N' Roses. Let's see if that happens.
Wait, I thought they retired.
I don't know what's going on. Nikki did. Nikki said something about being on a tour with Guns N' Roses. If you kind of, I don't know, could be stadium tour too. Who knows?
Why don't you guys come to Los Angeles for the September 3rd big rock event at the Rainbow? It's the last day to wear white, and Angel is playing. You got Angel, Enough's Enough,
Nice.
Steelheart, and all your guys' favorite bands.
Man, I
They're
would
all
love
going to
to
be
be
there
there.
September 3rd, Hollywood. And
Yeah.
for one night, you get to have this many people all dressed like those old days. It's like the one night that was like a Saturday night, a big Saturday night
Well,
in 1990 or
well, hey
1989.
Gerry, here, I
So
got
for
an
one
idea then.
night, you kind of have that back again. You know what I mean?
I
Where
got an
everyone's
idea.
putting on their shit. Yeah,
Use your connections, get us a private jet. We
yeah.
can come pick me up in Ohio. Then we'll fly out to Argentina and get Santi, and we'll party Hollywood
Yeah,
style.
I'll text you just like Carrie did. I'll text you about it. Yeah.
So make sure you wave first. Send me a wave.
You need a private jet, dude. Fly on an
So I know
airplane.
it's really you.
Costs like $500. You can stay here. You know what I mean? It's a great place. Sally Steele even stayed here in the other room, of course. But you know, she's yeah, I think she's going to come down too. We might have a house full of people.
Oh man, that'd be cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that
Absolutely love it.
Sally Steele album is fantastic. Those songs produced by Paul Sabut are amazing. Her songwriting is amazing, as I told you before.
You know what,
Yeah,
Carrie? Sally Steele, she's like my bestie, just about. She gets so upset whenever I tell her how good that band is. Oh, that just reminds me of all these terrible times, and then nobody trusted me, or nobody signed me, and you know what I mean. And I'm like, dude, you still, you know, they're awesome songs, though. That's got to be worth something, you know. I told her those are hits, and I believed it. You know what I mean? Those are really good songs. I barely even remember her though from the scene. And I
Mm,
mean, if you know, I don't even really knew who she was. She never played like the Whiskey and the Roxy and Gazaris. She never
right,
played any shows because she said she couldn't afford to pay to play, but you got to sell all the tickets. That's part of it. You know what I mean?
right.
I mean, if you got to, here's my view on pay to play, 30 words or less. Are you ready?
Okay.
Um, you got to pay for the rehearsals that you're never going to fucking get paid back for. You got to pay for all the equipment that you're never going to get paid back for, right? You got to pay for uh, uh, all the clothes that you know and all the advertisements that you never get paid back for. So you got to pay to play at the Whiskey too to make sure that they make their money. That's just one other thing. Who gives a shit, right? If you're already paying for 6 or 7 other things, what's the difference? If that's what the clubs need to make enough money to keep it going, at least you got that. You have that platform. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? You get to play the Roxy and the Whiskey. Why do you think people keep on did it? Why do you think people kept doing it? The only
Yeah.
ones who complain about it are the ones that failed because they weren't good enough. But most bands that were good, you know, they sell half the tickets or something, or most of them. You know what I mean? They give some away, gave them a chance to give tickets away. That's important to this town. You know, you want to
I,
give the tickets to all your friends and your girls and stuff, right?
I
And then
guess
you
you
pay
can
a
think
little
of
bit of
it
money
as
to
an
it. Never saw
investment.
anything wrong with it.
Yeah,
I used
I
to
mean,
at the G Spot Jams bands. I used to ask them to do 30 tickets at $5, and I'd give them like 30 for free. They always did it. You know what I mean? It was worth it to everybody.
I guess you can think of it as an investment, like for a
Yeah, it's an
chance to get
investment
big. Yeah.
on what
I
you're
mean,
gonna
why
do.
should the club operate and pay all the employees and stuff if you only bring 3 people in?
Yeah.
That
Right.
doesn't make it because that's all that would come without pay to play. So I've seen it a million times. There's no one lazier than these musicians. They wake up at 1 p.m. in the afternoon. You know what I mean? They barely have enough of their shit together, you know what I mean, to do one afternoon rehearsal before they have to go out on the strip and promote all night long with their flyers and, you know, and their phone lists and stuff before they
Mhm.
finally, you know, then plus all the extracurricular activities that they do, you know, with all the
Yeah.
different groupies and stuff, you know what I mean? By the time they
Well,
crash and wake up at 1 p.m. again the next day, they don't have time to do anything else, you know?
Brett Michaels and the guys seem to have a reputation of having a good work ethic
Yeah,
back then.
well, they were big. They were
Busting
so big
their ass.
that the other bands paid to play with Poison. They're
Right.
definitely part of the equation. Poison wasn't Poison without all the other bands filling the club before them for 120 tickets at $8, which was a lot back then, or whatever they pay to play cost. They do the different slots. You play right before Poison, you got to do this many tickets. You do the 9:30 spot, you do this tickets. You do the 8 p.m. spot, you get a break. You know what I mean? There used to be a cleanup spot at like 12 at midnight, 12:30. Now, unfortunately, as we get older, they wait for the headliner to play last. If I wish that it would all start at 6 p.m. and be over by 8, I would really love rock and roll. If everything was over by 11 at the latest.
Right.
The whiskey, they're just starting at 11. You know what I mean? I'm up early.
Oh
I'm an
man.
early bird. You know what I mean? I'm old.
Sansi, what are you laughing for, man? You're like 20 years younger than either one of us.
Well, yeah, I'm a father, so I get tired quickly as well.
Be there
Yeah,
one day, my friend. You'll be
it
there.
wears you out. I can't
Yeah.
do
Well,
this late. I did a
it's
late
been
night
great
this
chatting with
Saturday
you
night.
guys. I've really enjoyed my time here. It's really been
Yeah,
awesome.
man, it's been
Jerry, it's been
great,
cool, man.
It
and
said 20 minutes and we're up to an hour. So
yeah. Well, that's because we had a good time. That's
Nah.
we
good.
did, dude. We did.
Yeah.
We can do another one. We can. Do you have 4 boxes?
4 boxes.
Yeah,
For
like for 4
boxes.
people to do a
Oh
show.
yeah,
You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah, yeah,
we can
totally,
put
Yeah,
totally,
yeah.
yeah.
Bring me back as a guest host or something. I'll get you Kerry Kelly to do the
I'm about to
show.
say you and
Yeah,
Gerry Kelly
good,
come on,
good deal. Fair
and
enough.
we'll attack
We
that.
can.
And
We'll
that way,
attack that
that way,
steroids.
that or that way he'll be forced to talk about Big Bang Babies. You know what I mean?
Oh
Because he
yes.
doesn't like.
Yeah.
Which one do you think he'd rather talk about, Night Ranger or Big Bang Babies? You know what I mean?
We can have kid as well. Maybe he will be cool with it.
Do you want to do Kit also,
I mean,
That'd
we
be
could
cool.
try.
Yeah, it'd be
or
awesome.
separately?
Hey, we
If we
had
can't
all the
get
guys
Kerry,
from Rev Lover on here, so we
Yeah.
can
Revlon
do it.
Red's done this.
Rev Lover's been for 2 times already, and
Two
they're
episodes. Yeah.
scheduled for the
Revlon
third
Red.
time as
Did
well.
you say Mark? You mean Marky from Revlon Red? What?
No,
Who
no,
did you
no,
say?
No,
no,
Rev
no.
Lover.
Rev Lover, Rev Lover.
The
Oh,
guys in
Rev
Rev
Lover.
Lover.
Yeah, they used to wear all white too, just like
Yeah,
Angel.
Yep,
Yeah,
that's them.
yeah, cool
Yeah,
guys.
I love
they've
Rev
had.
Lover because remember I'd mentioned before, and this was not every band, only the ones that I could get away with, where I'd say that they had to do like 30 tickets, like bands like Swinging Thing, but I'd have to pay them a little bit. In fact, they were the only ones I paid. But Rev Lover had like some connection where they printed the tickets out for all the other bands.
Mm,
So that was Lover's. Did they ever say this? They've been on the show twice, right?
they've been on
That
the
was
Yeah,
show
but
their
twice, but I don't know if we've heard
that
the
was
printed
their
ticket
hustle.
story.
They did
We might have.
tickets. That was their hustle.
I think they mentioned it. Yeah,
I
now
think
I
they did.
remember.
I
Yeah,
vaguely
yeah, yeah,
remember
yeah,
that.
yeah. They had
And the
one of
other
the
thing
guys
about them is they were
worked at a
also
few.
they were also very good with good
Oh yeah,
songs. Yeah,
Very
yeah,
good.
that was the other thing. They weren't just some amateurs. They were cool looking, very cool looking with very cool songs. They didn't have the smashing live show where 11 p.m. where like everyone's coming. They weren't the giant headliner, which was sort of that third part of the equation, that the Steve Summers 3-part equation. You know what I mean? But
Mhm.
they
right.
definitely had the first two. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure, for sure.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
definitely.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have the record and listen to it
Have you
a lot.
done? Has Steve Summers been on the show yet?
Not yet.
Not yet.
That's one we
You
want to
want to
have
do
as
Steve
well.
Summers?
We
Would
should
love
have
to do
Steve
Steve
Summers. We'd
Summers.
love to
Hell
have
yeah.
Steve Summers. Yeah.
What about Angel? Have you got Angel on the show yet?
We're,
You want Punky
we're working our
Meadows?
we're working our way up to those guys.
I can get you Punky Meadows. You want Punky Meadows? I'll get you Punky Meadows. Have you done
Yeah, I
Chips
would love
Enough
to
yet?
talk with Funky.
All
Have you
right,
done
man. Hey,
Chips Enough yet?
okay, you're done. You're done. You're hired. You're hired. You're our show booker now. You got it. You got the job.
All right, next Monday, I'll get you guys someone good. All right. Thank you
All
guys
right.
so much. All right. I
Hell
really
yeah.
appreciate it.
Jerry,
Awesome,
thank
man.
you, man.
Thank you for taking the time.
Yeah, man.
Very
Yeah,
cool.
man. Awesome.
Okay. Have a good night. Have a good night, man. And thank you for being on the show.
I
Bye,
promise I
brother.
will. Thank you for having me. Have a nice night,
You too.
guys.
Take care.
You too,
Take
man.
care, man.